What just happened to all of you? It's about to get worse.
Joanna, we know you've spoken with the baptizer.
John, something's happening. John, there's a plot. They're going to kill you.
The Chosen Season 5, Episode 1, is packed with intense emotions, shocking confrontations, and scenes that completely change what we thought we knew. From Jesus' heartbreaking warnings at the Last Supper to a major clash at the temple, this episode sets the stage for one of the most powerful seasons yet. But there are new moments you might have missed, scenes that add deeper layers to the story, making everything feel more real than ever. Let's break it all down. The Chosen has done something unexpected this season. Instead of saving the Last Supper for the finale, they've spread it throughout the entire season. That means each episode begins with a piece of this pivotal moment, slowly building up the tension, letting us witness Jesus' final night with his disciples from multiple perspectives. Episode 1 opens with a chilling exchange. Jesus looks around the table, his eyes heavy with sorrow as he warns the disciples that he is leaving. They don't fully grasp what he means, but we do. John 16 comes to life as Jesus asks them a question that lingers in the air. Do you truly believe? Peter, John, and the others are quick to declare their faith, but there's a weight behind Jesus' gaze, one that suggests he knows what's coming. The betrayals, the fear, the scattering of his closest followers when the moment of truth arrives. As the camera lingers on Judas, the tension grows. His face flickers with uncertainty, but for now, he remains silent. The Last Supper scenes are not just about food and conversation. They are a slow, agonizing unraveling of what's to come. Every glance, every word feels heavier than before. And the best part, we'll see more of this dinner in every single episode, leading to an emotional crescendo by the end of the season. From there, the episode shifts back to where Season 4 left off. Jesus and his disciples traveling toward Jerusalem. But this journey isn't just a walk into the city, it's a march toward destiny. Each step brings them closer to the moment that will change everything. And not everyone is happy about it. The triumphal entry is one of the most iconic moments in the gospel, and The Chosen doesn't disappoint in its portrayal. But Episode 1 takes this moment and gives it an extra layer of complexity, showing us not only the triumph, but also the tension brewing underneath the surface. Jesus enters Jerusalem riding on a donkey, and the crowd goes wild, shouting, "Hosanna to the Son of David!" The prophecy from Zechariah 9:9 is being fulfilled right before their eyes. And for many, this is a moment of pure joy, a sign that the Messiah has finally come to liberate them. But the deeper reality of what's happening here is far more unsettling. Before the procession even begins, we see Zebedee and Joseph, two figures we don't often see at the forefront, engaged in a conversation with Jesus. Zebedee, who is the father of James and John, is frustrated and angry, visibly upset by what is unfolding. "The people are calling you the Son of David," he says, voice full of concern. Do you know what that means? It's dangerous. It's too much. The tension in Zebedee's voice is palpable. He understands the gravity of the situation, but he's not yet ready to embrace the full implications of Jesus' role. He doesn't see a king, he sees a man risking everything for a movement that could at any moment lead to disaster. In contrast, Joseph, who has been a quieter, more neutral character in past seasons, has a different perspective. While he's not as overtly upset as Zebedee, he too is hesitant. He's worried, but his fear is more about what this declaration of kingship will mean for Jesus' safety. The sheer boldness of what's happening isn't lost on him. This will attract attention, and not the kind you want. He warns Jesus. Are you ready for this? Are we ready for this? The most striking thing about this scene isn't just the men's warnings. It's the way Jesus responds. His calm demeanor contrasts sharply with the intensity of the moment. He doesn't hesitate, doesn't back down. He knows what is at stake. He knows the city will soon reject him, but he also knows that this ride into Jerusalem is essential. It's not a reckless display of power. It's a carefully calculated fulfillment of God's will. Jesus doesn't need the approval of the people he's walking into the lion's den fully aware of what awaits him. But what makes this scene truly gripping is the contrast between the internal doubts of his followers and the external joy of the crowd. The disciples are concerned, while the people are celebrating. Jesus' entry into Jerusalem is a paradox, a moment of public acclaim mixed with private fear. As he rides into the city, people are shouting praises, but not all of them understand who he truly is or what his coming means. They think he's here to overthrow Roman oppression, to deliver them politically, to be the kind of Messiah they've been waiting for. But they are wrong. Jesus is entering Jerusalem for something much greater, and the disciples know that they can't fully grasp the weight of it yet. As Jesus proceeds into the city, the scene grows even more intense. The moment where he stumbles upon a wedding celebration is almost surreal. It feels like a brief pause in the storm, an unexpected moment of joy and normalcy. Jesus doesn't seek attention, but in a world where everything he does is a spectacle, his presence doesn't go unnoticed. A boy at the wedding recognizes him, and soon the crowd is shouting Hosanna to the Son of David. It's a reminder of the complex emotions surrounding Jesus' journey, the people's hope, the disciples' fear, and the awareness that both groups are heading toward a reality none of them fully understand. But what truly sets this scene apart is the way The Chosen captures the weight of Jesus' vision for the city. As the camera pulls away from the crowd, we see Jesus walking alone. There's no grand spectacle here, no triumphant music or cheering crowd. Instead, we are given a raw, intimate moment, Jesus standing atop a wall, looking out over Jerusalem, lamenting the city's future. He knows what's coming. The streets that once celebrated him will soon cry out for his death. The very people shouting his praises today will be among those calling for his crucifixion tomorrow. The city's destruction looms large in his heart, and in this scene we get a glimpse of that deep sorrow. The moment is haunting, especially when Jesus has a vision of the destruction of the temple, a scene that many viewers might not have expected to see in episode 1. It's a stark reminder of how intertwined Jesus' earthly journey is with the fate of the city. The destruction he foresees won't happen in his lifetime, but he knows it is inevitable. The people of Jerusalem will reject him, and their rejection will lead to their downfall. It's a sobering moment, one that calls back to the prophecies in the Gospels about the coming judgment upon the city. This scene also provides a subtle but powerful reminder that Jesus is not just a political leader or a revolutionary. He is the Son of God with a divine mission far beyond what anyone could comprehend. The triumphal entry may have been celebrated by the people, but Jesus' eyes were focused on something far more significant. His purpose was never just to be hailed as a king. It was to bring about a kingdom that would change everything, and to do so at a cost. And the people in their blindness will miss the true meaning of his arrival. The tension doesn't stop there. As the episode continues, we see more of the city's response to Jesus. Not all of it is celebratory. We see characters like Veronica and Simon Z's brother Atticus weeping over the city. Their tears reflect the sorrow that Jesus feels, a sorrow that the people of Jerusalem are blind to. They weep not for the political oppression, but for the spiritual blindness that keeps the city from recognizing the Messiah when he's standing right in front of them. This combination of joy and sorrow, celebration and warning sets the tone for the rest of the season. Jesus' arrival in Jerusalem is not just a moment of triumph, it's the beginning of the end. He knows his mission is about to reach its climax, and he knows that the road to the cross will be filled with pain, rejection, and betrayal. But for now, he presses on. The ride into the city is just the beginning of a journey that will forever change the course of history. And as viewers, we are left with a powerful reminder of the tension between what is seen and what is unseen, between the joy of the people and the sorrow in Jesus' heart. After the emotional and intense triumphal entry, episode 1 delves into another pivotal scene, one that's filled with a mixture of comedy, anxiety, and raw potential. Peter, ever the impulsive disciple, is asked by Jesus to step up and begin preaching the gospel to the people of Jerusalem. As we watch Peter try to embrace his calling, what unfolds is both hilarious and heartbreaking, but above all, it's deeply human. This scene is one of the most exciting yet funny moments in the episode, and it brings a touch of levity to the otherwise intense and dramatic tone of the season's opening. Peter has always been portrayed as the bold and brash disciple, the one who acts before he thinks, speaks without filtering, and as we saw in season 4, frequently finds himself stumbling and learning from his mistakes. And this moment is no different. When Jesus tells Peter that he wants him to spread his teachings in Jerusalem, Peter is both thrilled and terrified. He doesn't hesitate to agree, but it's clear he doesn't have a clue about what he's supposed to do. As always, Peter is convinced that he can handle whatever is thrown at
Peter's
him.
first instinct
but the
is to
reality
ask Matthew,
is who, as we know, is the meticulous recorder of events, to document his sermon. He calls for Matthew, jokingly saying that he's going to preach and that Matthew should take notes for him in his little book. There's a sense of nervous excitement in Peter's voice, almost as if he's trying to convince himself that he can pull this off. He says it with an air of confidence, but beneath that bravado, there's a hint of doubt. It's a moment that's full of humor because we all know that Peter, while full of enthusiasm, isn't exactly known for his eloquence or his ability to speak without getting ahead of himself. Matthew's response to Peter's declaration is priceless. "Yeah, you'll be terrible," he quips, cutting through Peter's false confidence with a dose of reality. It's a moment that perfectly captures their relationship. Peter, the outspoken, impulsive leader, and Matthew, the calm, observational scribe, who doesn't mince words. While it's a lighthearted exchange, it also shows us something deeper. Matthew is grounded in his understanding of who Peter really is. He knows that Peter isn't a polished preacher, that his words will be messy, and that this will be a far cry from the eloquent speeches we might expect from someone in his position. And yet Matthew still believes in Peter, even if he's poking fun at him in the process. As the scene progresses, we see Peter nervously prepare for his sermon. He practices his words, stammering over his lines, clearly uncertain of what to say. This is a man who walked on water, but can't quite figure out how to deliver a speech. It's both endearing and comical, showing us the human side of a disciple who is still very much in the process of becoming the leader we will eventually see in Acts. Peter's nervousness is palpable, and it's a feeling that most people can relate to. Standing in front of a crowd, trying to speak with authority, but feeling completely out of your depth. The contrast between his boldness in other moments and his hesitancy here is what makes this scene so relatable and real. When Peter finally steps up to deliver his first sermon, the moment doesn't go according to plan. What he thought would be an inspiring oratory filled with profound teachings quickly spirals into a disaster. He stumbles over his words, loses his train of thought, and at one point even cracks a joke that falls flat. The crowd looks on in confusion, and Peter's discomfort grows with every passing second. He's trying to remember the teachings of Jesus, trying to make an impact, but the words aren't coming out the way he hoped. It's almost painful to watch. This man who has been so confident in the past is now struggling with the simplest of tasks. It's a stark contrast to the bold, confident leader we know Peter will become after the resurrection and Pentecost. The moment is also filled with a sense of irony. Here is Peter, one of the key disciples who will later give one of the most powerful sermons in the New Testament. 3,000 people will be saved after his speech in Acts 2. But in this scene, he is anything but the confident, spirit-filled preacher. He's an unpolished, nervous wreck, fumbling with words, not yet understanding the power of the Holy Spirit that will one day empower him to speak with authority. It's a moment of humility, showing us that even the great apostles had to start somewhere. Even Peter, who would become the rock on which the church was built, had to learn and grow just like the rest of us. And yet, despite the awkwardness and the awkward pauses, there's something incredibly endearing about Peter's determination. He doesn't give up. He keeps trying. Even though it's clear that his first sermon is a failure, there's a sense that he's learning with every misstep, every stumble, every awkward moment. This is the beginning of his journey. He's not perfect, but he's faithful, and that's what matters. In a way, his failures in this scene make him all the more relatable. We've all been in situations where we've tried our best, but things haven't gone as planned. We've all had our own Peter moments where our confidence falters, and we're left wondering if we'll ever get it right. For Peter, this moment is far from the last word. It's just the beginning. But it's a powerful one. The Chosen gives us the space to laugh with Peter, to feel his embarrassment, and yet to cheer for him, because we know that just like him, we all have our own journeys of growth and transformation. The episode doesn't just show us the humorous disaster of Peter's sermon. It sets the stage for what's to come. We know that Peter's next sermons will be powerful, that his words will change lives, and that this stumbling, awkward moment is a stepping stone on his way to becoming one of the greatest preachers in Christian history. But for now, the scene ends in failure. And it's a beautiful failure. It's a reminder that Jesus doesn't choose perfect people to carry out his work. He chooses those who are willing to try to fail to learn and to grow. Peter, in all his impulsive, unrefined glory, is exactly the kind of person Jesus needs. And though his first sermon may have been a disaster, we know that in time Peter will speak with power and conviction. For now, however, we get a glimpse into the messy human side of this disciple, and it makes us root for him even more. In the grand narrative of the chosen Peter's sermon is just a small part of his journey, but it's a crucial one. It shows us that greatness doesn't happen overnight. It's forged through struggle, mistakes, and perseverance. And as we continue to follow Peter's journey through the season, we know that this moment of failure will eventually lead to something extraordinary. From the very beginning, we see that Judas is not a character who is outwardly evil or malicious. He isn't portrayed as someone who simply decides from the start to betray Jesus. Instead, we are shown a more complex figure, someone who starts out with a genuine desire to follow Jesus, to be part of something meaningful, to be part of the revolution that he believes Jesus is about to bring. Judas is, after all, one of the 12 chosen disciples. He has been entrusted with a special role, a place among Jesus' closest followers. But, as the narrative progresses, we begin to see subtle shifts in Judas' demeanor, his attitude, and his actions. These small changes, while seemingly insignificant at first point, to a deeper fracture within his heart, a fracture that will ultimately lead to betrayal. One of the most striking things about the Chosen's portrayal of Judas is how we see his internal struggle unfold. Judas is often conflicted, wrestling with his own expectations of what Jesus is supposed to be and do. He is disillusioned by the apparent lack of progress in Jesus' movement. Throughout the series, we see him question the direction Jesus is taking, his growing frustration with Jesus' focus on love, humility, and sacrifice instead of the political and military revolution that Judas envisioned. Judas, it seems, is expecting Jesus to be the kind of Messiah who will free Israel from Roman oppression and restore the kingdom of David. But as time goes on, it becomes clear that Jesus is not the revolutionary that Judas hoped for. Instead, Jesus speaks of a kingdom that is not of this world, one that is built on love, humility, and service, not violence and conquest. In these early moments of doubt, Judas' conflict is relatable. Many people both then and now struggle with understanding God's plan when it doesn't align with their own desires and expectations. Judas represents the many who become frustrated or disillusioned when the path of faith does not meet their personal hopes or ambitions. But it is in this moment of disillusionment that Judas begins to make a series of choices that will slowly push him away from the truth and ultimately lead him to a place of no return. The betrayal begins not with an outward act, but with small compromises, moments when Judas chooses his own desires over the will of God. He starts to question Jesus' authority, to doubt his mission, and to place his trust in his own understanding of the situation. This growing frustration with Jesus is portrayed in several subtle but telling moments throughout Season 5. Judas is often seen grumbling under his breath, casting skeptical glances at Jesus and the other disciples. He becomes increasingly withdrawn, less engaged in the collective mission, and more focused on his own personal ambitions. But what is perhaps most tragic about Judas' journey is how his pride and self-interest cloud his ability to see the truth before him. He is so convinced that he knows what's best, that he has a clearer vision of what needs to happen, that he fails to understand the depth of Jesus' mission. Jesus is not here to fit Judas' expectations. He is here to fulfill God's plan, to bring about salvation not through force and violence, but through sacrifice and love. Judas, however, cannot see this. His heart grows hardened and his eyes are blinded to the truth of Jesus' purpose.